This episode is brought to you by ShipShape Health, LLC. Welcome back to the Merchant Mariner podcast. I have with me Mr. Andrew Bruhl, the proprietor of ShipShape Health, LLC. He is a mariner of sorts, not of my normal focal points here, especially for between the levees, but he is with me nonetheless to discuss his life and his current adventures here. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Man, thank you for having me and happy to be on board.
Yeah, how did you end up coming across this show? What do you think of what I've been doing so far?
Uh, I would say, with the industry that we're in, it is a tight knit, very small, niched industry. So I was looking for, a little bit more information regarding like who's out there doing what in the shipping. So, it's um, news travels fast, and I was doing a little YouTube search, and I came up with Between the Levees, and then Sal's page, the what's going on with shipping, what's up with shipping. So just wanted to check around and just see what we're doing out there. What kind of information that you're projecting out.
And what is your marine background?
Oh yeah, so a couple different things. I worked with Crowley, sailed with Crowley. I first introduction was working on a private yacht, a sport fish, and was dating a pilot's daughter, a Pascagoula pilot's daughter. And he said, "Man, if you want to really get into this, you probably should go to school for it." So I went to the Texas Maritime Academy, graduated in 2017, and then shipped out with Crowley on the Conroes, Jacksonville to Puerto Rico, did a breakout ship on the Cape Wrath, and then where else did I do? Did another private yacht after that. Did some more white hull, another sport fish, and man, it's just been. I've always enjoyed being on the water, and it's been a blessing being out there and getting to see the adventure. And then obviously we make pretty good coin, so that's pretty good as well.
Well, fill me in on life, where you grew up, what was life growing up, and until I think it was 2013 when you found yourself on that charter yacht.
Yes, yeah. Born and raised in Mississippi, so a small town, Ocean Springs, Mississippi, next to Biloxi, if you've heard of it. Shrimping capital of the world, some would say, or at least the Back Bay Biloxi guys would. Um, you know, Small, artsy, cool, Gulf Coast town. Big fishing enthusiast. We had New Orleans just close by, so I never really saw myself going into the maritime industry. I always knew that I wanted to be on the water and enjoyed it, but not that I would make a living from it. Sports background, really just, you go to a bunch of different colleges, or at least me personally, a bunch of different places, and you don't know exactly what you want to do. And then so you finally find something that sticks, and you're working on the water, and then you go to the academy, and then it's like it just makes sense, right? So everything lined up, and really just like put my heart and soul into the industry and just never look back.
Well, I'm sure you have a few good stories from your experiences at each posting. So walk me through your first experiences on the charter vessels, and then tell me some more about that school you attended in Texas.
Yeah, definitely. So the charter vessel in that we're speaking of, at one time she was the third largest sport fish in the world. She was ran out of Biloxi. So it was me and two other cats, 24, 25, and I was 23 at the time. So, running a big sport fish, chasing marlin, playing around in Biloxi it's a pretty good life. It's pretty laid back. You're doing a lot of fun stuff, and you're getting paid to do it, right? So, charter fishing offshore deep sea is typically pretty expensive, but we were getting paid to catch fish, which was not everybody can say that that's their job. So a couple stories. I I was new, kind of a greenhorn deckhand, and I don't know if you like coffee, Tim, but I'm quite pro coffee, and need some caffeine. Well, this vessel, being the luxury sport fish that it was, had a very nice espresso machine. I'm talking brass, like really polished, very nice piece of equipment. and I didn't quite know how to use it. I thought I did, but I did not. And so the boss is on board, and I guess that I either didn't turn something the right way or whatever took place. It definitely was not able to be used the next morning, and I hadn't caught a ass chewing like that from the boss ever, and so it was just kind of, it wasn't necessarily what he said. It was just like the the way that he came about it. He's like, I wake up and there's one thing on my mind, and it's coffee, and I can't have it. And you're the reason behind it. And so it's like, just running with my tail tucked between my legs after that. But then we went and catch a marlin or two, and he was all right. But just a really good understanding of like, he liked his coffee just as much as I did, and just make sure that you take care of your business so the boss can drink.
Anything interesting you can share about the patrons of these fishing charters?
Well, this vessel is no longer named what she was. It was a sold, kind of left that owner and has moved on. But let's just say that if the if the vessel could talk, probably wouldn't want it to. So a good time, enjoyable as it was, young 20s, just the adventure is there, right? And I think for anybody that's looking to break into this industry, whether it's blue water shipping or inland or charter yachts, it's like there's so much out there that you'll learn about, one, about yourself, putting yourself in these positions of growth and uncomfort and learning a new trade, and then as well as like other people, right? Different cultures, all types of walks of life have found themselves on the maritime industry. And so like you really do get to learn about life and experience really quickly on the water.
Well, was the Texas Maritime School the next step for you?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, so I was dating a pilot's daughter in Pascagoula, and he said, "Look," so I rode out a ship with him. He said, "Hey, you want to ride a vessel in?" I was like, "I don't even know what that is. Like what's a pilot?" So climb the ladder, and you just see the amount of immediate respect that this individual gets in commanding the ship and just like navigating properly, and just like the professionalism around this industry. And um and I, I was just I, I was immediately called to that, and just like there was so much order and direction, at least on this vessel, right? So he's here's your coffee, sir, here's your newspaper, and just like everybody is just like snapped to. And I still hadn't seen anything like that. It was militarized, and so I was like, oh, um so I appreciated that. And he said, you need to go to school for it if you want to do this for real. So I enrolled in the school. The girl and I broke up, and the rest is history after that. But um, you know, the Maritime Academy taught me that first off, you make the best of any situation, right? So like whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, like always seeking the silver lining in any scenario. Um, it was an absolute. Uh, Looking back on it, it was joy, like pure joy, because whether it was good, bad, or indifferent, like you had your group of people that you were with. You had these guys that were going through academy with you, all learning this very similar trade. And not everybody that started with you made it, right? My best friend from high school went out there with me, and I was like, "Oh, 4 years, we're gonna be doing this together, go shipping together." And then it's like 2 months later, he's back at home. So you just don't know exactly what to expect when you get into that, but you make some really good friends, that's friends for a lifetime. And so at the academy, it's like I said, is you make the most of it, and you can invest your time properly and like go for it, or you can just kind of like ride the wave and just kind of get by. And I chose to do the former. And I wanted a leadership role. I was a little older going into it, so I made sure that I positioned myself to be a guiding light for those guys coming in. I was 24 when I went to the academy. So the first year I was fish cadet, like kind of the the typical run the mill, just freshman induction. And then I was like, I'm gonna serve as a leader here. I'm gonna really use some traits and like set some standards here. So I was a company commander my second year and third year, and then or at least the first half of the third year, and then the physical training officer for the Corps cadets, and um, established a physical training program, first one at Texas A&M, and like which kind of led into really like where ShipShape is now. It kind of like was like the first little spark that was like Mariner Fitness. That's where it grew from.
Well, where did life take you next? Did you find that the coursework could have been modified or potentially improved in any way to better prepare you for life out there with Crowley? Was Crowley the
Hmm.
first step after the school?
Yeah,
Or-
that's a good question. I think that um, you know, when it comes to where you get your license or, the coursework that you take, um, there is nothing that can fully prepare you for what you're going to experience out there, right? We can get pretty damn close. Um, but I really think that on the job training and the cadet shipping and like really the networking community around the industry and like that's the biggest piece that was I learned so much as a cadet of not necessarily what to do, but what not to do, right? Don't piss the chief mate off, right? Be on time here. Those little things. Um, I think that Texas A&M did a fantastic job of preparing me and like putting me in the right position. And the same thing, like you can either be on the backside of the class and kind of ride the wave, or you can be on the cutting edge and like make sure that you are as prepared as you can be to going offshore, right? And like putting yourself in the best position to succeed, right? And yeah, so graduating in 2017 after walking across the stage, I actually went in to work with Crowley at the office first. So I was a maritime recruiter, and I was in Jacksonville, and the first few months there, and I didn't know if I was ready to go out to sea, whether it's like I didn't have a job, so I was like, I'm gonna take whatever I can, and I'm gonna make it work. Um, so what was cool about that is I got to position a couple of my friends from the academy to get jobs. So Crowley was like, "Hey, we have 5 tankers right now that need third officers with a PIC." And I was like, "Give me 15 minutes." And so called some buddies up and was like, "Hey, this is needed. Like, we need these spots filled." So just made that happen. And it was nice to be able to, do something very proactive early on in my career there. And I think just like that, I don't know that that initial first step was what, propelled me to get into a gig with them, but I guess it didn't hurt. So it was good.
Keep walking our way through life, but up until I think
Yeah.
I forget the date, but you found yourself on a container ship, and that was the trigger point for this last or this latest stage rather for you.
Yeah.
But let's start. I think it was a third officer with Crowley.
Yeah. This is I'm actually looking at it on screen right now, my website. But yeah, I was on the vessel the El Coqui, which was a conroe that sailed from Jacksonville to San Juan, Puerto Rico. Very fast, about 50 hours, sea buoy to sea buoy. Um, I took her out of the yard. So I guess plank on her the whole nine. Just uh, what a magical first watch that was, not necessarily knowing what to expect, like making sure that the phone worked. So the captain went down probably, 20, 30. He's like, all right, she's yours. Take it and run. Um, about 2032, just gave him 2 minutes to get down there and like just making sure that this thing works, and kind of tongue in cheek, but just really knowing that I wasn't afraid to call him. I mean, we obviously had a good relationship, but um, just to know that it worked was a good feeling. And trusting your equipment, learning the equipment throughout the process, and just like really learning and trusting your ABs. right? That they've been out there and they've seen it and like trusting their word as well. And like what a cool aspect of just like community and teamwork and just like to making the job work as easy as a traffic situation, right? Like still takes a team, you know? So I sailed hard with Crowley for 3 years. Back and forth, same ship, same run. Uh I saw a lot of cool stuff. Sailed second and third mate there and just knew the ship backwards and forwards. And it was like, and the captain's always, he's telling me, he's like, Andrew, you've got this down, right? You've got this run down. And they're always like, to grow, you have to go somewhere else, right? To like really get the experience that you need as a mariner to sail effectively and to not be pigeonholed into one entity or one ship. And I definitely understood that. But but it's also like, I get it, but it's also you've got you've got a good thing going. It's like this is consistent, this is good money, this is a good routine, it's a good route. Um, and so I always listened to them, and I knew that there was definitely going to be a time to come where it's like, okay, cool. I did a breakout with Marad through Crowley, and that was an experience in itself. Working on a row ship, the Cape Wrath. Um, it was just like can't say enough good things about that company and what they put me through and allowed me to experience. And just like, yeah, I'd do it 100 times over.
You said you were out there for 3 years. I mean, how often were you home?
Oh yeah, true. Yeah. Not 3 years straight. So we had a good rotation. It was 7 on, 7 off, 7 weeks, 7 weeks. And sailing through COVID with them as well was like, you know not everybody knew exactly what to do. I'm sure you've talked about COVID a dozen times on here through shipping. But they did their best to like accommodate and just like to understand like what is going on right now. Um, yeah, it was 7 on, 7 off. And in that time, for the first couple of years, I was actually living in Australia. I guess for a year. So I would sail hard and then fly to Australia, come back, sail, fly to Australia. So it was a good little adventure.
Well, I'm sure there's some stories there too. How about your time in Australia?
Oh man, Oz was Oz was a blast. Just a good group of people that really want to show you a good time in their country, right? Like, the language barrier, obviously English speaking, so it was like the easiest way to travel foreign and still be like comfortable. Um, and so just like really immersing myself in the culture. I was a big proponent at that time in jiu-jitsu, and I joined a gym, made some lifelong friends. You know, I would have loved to adventured more, but 7 weeks goes by really quick. Even wherever you're at. But did some backpacking in the snowy mountains, did some fly fishing down there, went to Cairns, snorkeled the Great Barrier Reef. That was dope. Um, got to do a rainforest adventure and see a cassowary, which is one of their endangered species, like one of the bigger flightless birds. Um, just a cool continent that is just not everything wants to kill you, right? And they don't park their kangaroos outside. They're definitely in the bush, but um, it's a really great place to go. We lived near Sydney, just outside of Sydney, Surrey Hills. The Opera House is stunning. It is just like it sees in the pictures. It's not as big, as like you would think it would be, but it's still iconic. Um, and the bridge is really awesome. I forgot what the bridge is called, but yeah, it's a beautiful place. The people are awesome, and they really want to show you a good time, right? It's like um, they really want you to enjoy yourself, right? And they want to share that with you, which I thought was great.
And my limited experience with Australians actually through this podcast experience, um, that they seem to really enjoy messing with you. Little white lies
Oh,
here and there.
oh, for sure. If they're not messing with you, then they don't like you, right? Like you have to be. There's that. that little tug and pull there. That's like, if they're jabbing at you, you're in. Yeah.
Yeah, that's life everywhere it seems, but especially there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so I see there appears to be a break from the marine side of things with a company
Yes.
called Stryker.
Yeah. 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 That's
How did you get
you know,
involved with that? And what was that about?
it's funny that that blip on the radar, if a year, like time flies by, eh? Like it's just so quick. So Stryker is a medical device company, a very large proponent in a couple different areas. But I had always thought before I went to the Maritime Academy, into the maritime industry, I was going to go into the medical field, either be a nurse or a physician, physical therapist, etc. Um, and I'd always heard this, like if I wasn't going to do PT, I was going to go be a med device sales rep, right? Get into sales, making impact with medical devices in some form or fashion in some facet of the industry. Uh, and so I'd always had this in my mind, like if I didn't do this, I would go here. And so it was always kind of like in the back of my mind. And I was just I'd taken a break. I knew that shipping, I I didn't see myself going to captain, right? I didn't see myself making it all the way through the industry, or whether it been because I didn't want to, the lifestyle or whatever it was, right? But I knew that there was going to be a break for me, and so I was like, well, what else am I going to do? So that's originally when I was like, all right, I'm going to try this med device. And so I put myself in a position to get hired on with this company, and just like burn the candle on both ends to find the resources to get in, and made some connections, uh, and I made it happen, right? So it's the sales for them is very difficult. It's a very well sought after job, and so I just was like, I'm going to do it, and pulled the trigger and made it happen, and had some great success, and impacted a lot of lives, made some really good connections in the industry, and helped set a lot of people up for success. I was in the ENT division, so ear, nose, and throat. Um, and I did it for a year, and was like just kind of just like not necessarily a box being checked, but just like when you have something in your mind, when you have a goal, when you have a vision, and it's just and you want to take action on it, knowing that something like that is possible, positioning yourself to be able to do it, and if you want it bad enough, you can have it. And so I just went for it, and just didn't take no for an answer, and made it happen.
Well, it looks like after that you did some time as a first mate for mea culpa on another fishing vessel,
Hmm.
but I don't see mention of a container ship. So walk me maybe through mea culpa, and then I read somewhere you found yourself on a container ship, and that's when the switch turned, I guess, the key
Ah,
rather.
yeah,
The
yeah.
key turned to set you on this current trajectory.
Yeah, so I guess it's so the thought of ship shape has always it started on the Conroe El Koki. I say container ship, con row like container and row. So we would take 600 700 boxes down south, and then probably 200 cars. So I remember we were Portside 2 in Jacksonville Beach. I was on the phone with a good buddy of mine, and I had always been an extreme, um, uh, I say athlete, but just like a proponent of physical wellness, right? So like physical fitness, anything that could keep me in athletic condition or just being able to move, right? So I've always wanted to be mobile, and I never wanted to let that deter anything that I did in life. So, on ships, as you can probably well imagine and have seen, it's not typically the most it's not typically the healthiest place around, right? And there's a lot of unhealthy living, uh, potentially the food, a lot of sedentary, a lot of solidarity, and just really not all about movement. And so when I got on ships, even starting as a cadet and like working my way through the ranks, was I knew that physical fitness was always a place for me um, to have a release, right? Stress, physical, whatever it is. Like I knew that that was my support system. I knew if I always had that, nobody could take it away from me. Right. So an hour or so, 3 or 4 times a week was something that was my thing. Right. Um, and so I just never let it go. And I just always kept with it through, sports growing up, and just like this was just this foundational piece. Um, and so, like I said, port side too, I was talking to my buddy, and I was a personal trainer, I was trying to figure out how I was going to impact one, just an industry in general, or a certain group of people, a demographic. And like, he was like, I can help anybody, if anybody wants to get in shape, I can help them, if they have this, and this, right? These qualifications. And he said, well, look, mate, if you're wanting to help everybody, maybe you don't get anybody, right? If you're just like casting this net so wide. And so he's like, what do you know best? And I said, well, I know exercise, I know fitness, and I know the maritime industry. Well, he said, there you go. Like help the people first off that are right in front of you, that are on the ships with you. And so, um, ever since that conversation, I just knew that it was just like, that's where the keys clicked, right? Like that was the unlocking of, this is where you can make your stand. This is where you can make your impact. This is where you can create absolute change in an industry that helped create who you are. And so I said, I'm going for it. And um, so ever since then, on El Coqui, helping cadets exercise, setting them up with success there. ABs, we would do, like little workout routines during coffee break, helping them, eat properly, just like understanding nutrition in general, physical fitness routines. And just like, it was my first client actually was an AB on board. After even El Coqui, she and I worked together, and just like helping her lose weight. She wanted to go back home looking right for her man, right? So I was like, okay, let's do it, you and me. So that's where it started, and we've just kind of progressed so far since. It's like 2021, is when it really got kicked off, and had some lulls here and there. Life situations happen, ups and downs, and um, we've been, the doors have been open, and wide open since roughly January of last year. So really like serving well for about a year now.
And how's business? How big's your team?
Yeah. So myself, we have a, coach on staff. His name's Travis, nutrition and fitness coach. We have two operations guys. One guy is, he's helping with the back end system, making sure that all of our, um, that everything's lined up with our. We have a custom branded white labeled app through one of our coaching platforms, just making sure that everything's above board. So yeah, that's just the internal team. We've helped since originally getting kicked off and like starting. We've worked with hundreds of mariners now, and I've talked to. I would say I'm coming up on 1,000 mariners talked to over the last few years, and then I think we crested 5,000 workouts completed through all the guys and girls. So yeah, it's been a wild, exciting ride, and just watching people transform and change their lives in front of you in just a short period of time. It's quite profound.
And anybody out there listening or watching to this, where can they find you?
Yeah. Best place. I'm on Instagram, Andrew Bruhl at Andrew Bruhl 13. And then I've got shipshapewellness.com is our website. We have a YouTube page as well. And I can give you the links here. We can put those on. And it's just, yeah, we've been working with, we're getting into the corporate side of things now, working with some, getting a word out through a couple different entities to help, just help the masses, man. It's really crazy what you can do with a little bit of accountability, a plan, and some guidance. And we've been able to provide a lot of traction there for a lot of people.
Is your client base primarily offshore, or do you have anybody inshore yet that knows about what you're doing?
So we're typically we're we're mariners, man. Like we work with mariners, and that's the best way we do it. We have a unique approach and an understanding of the industry and how it runs and how it works. So we really don't. It's not that we can't help somebody on land. We have a couple surveyors that have worked with us. Kind of maybe some like port captains. But typically we're mariner based.
I mean, offshore versus towing and the barge industry.
Oh yeah, okay, gotcha. Yeah, so we're a mixed bag. Definitely blue water is we have a lot of blue water, a couple third mates out there right now working with us. A lot of tug and tow, a lot of inland guys. I would say we're not heavy one place or the other. Um, I think my favorite mariners to work with are the ones with zero equipment, right? Like minimal to none. It's just, what do you do? How do you do it? And it's just, putting together, it's a puzzle, right? It's like, what do you have? What are your goals? And how much time commitment are you willing to invest, right? Like, what does that look like? And so that's probably my favorite people to work with. So, yeah.
Well, in closing, we kind of bypassed it. Are there any good stories come to mind about trips to Costa Rica, Panama, and Bermuda?
Oh man. Um, Costa Rica. So I can't tell that one. Uh, Costa Rica is, if you haven't been, there's a little place called Papagayo, which is in the northern area of the country, on the Pacific side. And there's a place called Witches Rock, and it's a surf break. If you haven't heard of it and you're a surfer, definitely take a look on YouTube. It's a stunning break, and we've been countless times in the morning before work, and it's just absolutely iconic. So I would say going there would be a really a great bucket list that I didn't know that I needed to check off the list. Um, Man, I think just and as mariners, I think we lose, and I think back in the day, and I say back in the day, probably like the '80s would have been like just kind of the wild wild west. I think some of us still have the wild wild west going on, with tramp ships, but just the adventure that is out there is, you really you got some opportunities to really lean into some stuff, and especially with a big license or really any license, just don't feel like you can't go somewhere else, right? Like there's a lot of people hiring, there's companies hiring all over the place. Um, you know, the white holes or the private yachts, um, that's another place. If you haven't done it, it is quite a unique experience. It's definitely has its ups and downs, and it's definitely different than a deep water or a corporate style shipping scenario, but it's not off the list, right? Like you always have another place to go. And there's always a different way to view and work on the water. So just go for it, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, that's a decent enough place to stop, I think. But what is next, I guess, for your business? Are you in a growth phase? What are you sustaining what you have? What's going on with ShipShape?
Yeah, good question. ShipShape is always and has always like our mission is to optimize the health and wellness of the maritime industry, right? We have a couple irons in the fire right now. To I'm going to speak. Going to go to the Maritime Academy at Texas. Just talk to those guys there, and really look at getting something into through the Coast Guard, some form of class or metric or certification or something around just healthier living offshore. Obviously the mental aspect that we all kind of recognize was something real and apparent through COVID. I think they're really taking a hard look at that now, and it has been, which is great. It's just bringing awareness around like one, the possibility of having a positive and enhanced shipping experience is it's absolutely attainable. Um, and just getting it in front of more mariners and more people, and through outlets, not unlike Between the Levees. It's like, if you want to get in shape, it's like, yeah, it's not easy. It's not hard. Like, it just is, right? Like, you just make a choice. And, we've been growing, we've been growing all the time, and happy to do so. Just getting in front of more people. And I guess the next phase would be more of a corporate adoption, getting on with the company, and helping them see, like, you know, as long as Mariners are around, like, we're going to do our best to help keep them healthy.
I think that'll do it, sir. Thank you very much for your time here this afternoon, and good luck with everything.
I appreciate you, Tim. Thank you.
Yes, sir. This has been a production of Yacht Studios, LLC.